You're listening to the Organize My Thoughts podcast, where we teach you how to get out of your head so you can execute the vision. I am your host, Kylia Jackson. Let's get started. Hello, family, and welcome back to another episode of the Organize My Thoughts podcast. I hope everyone is having an amazing week. I know for me, it has been a pretty tiring week. I feel like I tried to participate in the Sabbath this time. This is like my third week, and it didn't go exactly as planned, but we're in a process and we're figuring this thing out. And so going into my week, I just think, it's just kind of one of those weeks where you're just pretty tired, but it is okay. We are here. It's Wednesday. It's a new month, and I'm excited for what is to come. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about releasing control. I feel like this is just coming off of the end of February. I feel like we are kind of in a season where the new year, new hype is kind of worn off, and we are expecting some things to happen in our lives that may not have happened in our timing. And I just did a video over on my YouTube channel about when you're tired of waiting on God. And I feel like this was a real place that a lot of people were in, including myself. And I just wanted to transparently talk about it because I don't ever want this platform to be a platform where it seems like everything is 100% perfect all of the time. And here's 3 steps to do this without actually addressing that. Like, hey, you're human, and we get in spaces where, we get frustrated. We are tired of things not working out as we planned, or sometimes we have a plan and an intention for something to work out and it doesn't work out that way. And so I think transparently talking about what to do in those meantime, in those middle places, is really helpful as well. So like I said, today we're going to be talking about releasing control. And particularly, I just want to update you guys on what's been going on with me. I feel like I was in this season where I'm waiting on some promises. God has told me some things that he wants me to do. And I feel like I have done everything that I could in my own strength. I was obedient to every task. And then I was in this waiting period, right? Sometimes we find ourselves in a waiting period because we haven't done what God has told us to do. And other times we find ourselves in a waiting period where we have literally done all the things that are on what I like to call my obedience list. And then we're still in this period where we have to wait on God to do his part. And I feel like that has been a season where it has been particularly frustrating for me, because in this season where I'm learning to trust God and be still and know that he is God and he will do what he said he will do without me, it's frustrating because we can't control God. And I know a lot of us probably wouldn't even admit that we were trying to control God. But when I looked at the way that I was acting and how frustrated I was getting and how I would allow like simple things to get me worried and upset, or, just anxious because I couldn't really control the timeline, I had to realize that I wasn't just trying to control the circumstances. I was trying to control God. And I think that reminder that we can't control God really caused me to submit to him and trust him in a different way. And I'm actually reading a book. It's called Holier Than Thou, and it's talking about how God's holiness helps us to trust him. And as I'm reading the book, it's really revealing to me different parts of God's character that I think have been very watered down. And one of that is regarding his holiness. And because he's holy, he cannot sin against us. He cannot lie to us. And I think, again, sometimes we get in this waiting period where we feel like because God is having me wait, then that must mean that God is not good, or, God is trying to punish me, or God is trying to manipulate me. But those are all lies and really just a reflection of how we see other people, and we project that on how we see God. And so I know I'm kind of just like all over the place talking this out, but the root of what I really want us to take away from this conversation about releasing control is that we need to let God be God. And what I mean by that is that we need to surrender control. We need to stop trying to drive the car and be in the passenger seat and the driver's seat at the same time. We literally have to learn how to take a back seat and to just trust in God's character, that he will do what he said he will do, that he's always working behind the scenes. And even when we can't see why certain things have to happen or why certain things have to, be put on pause, right? Like, it's just, if God says to be still, then he can be trusted. And just to give you a practical example, I feel like there were certain areas that God was calling me to focus on more than other areas. For an example, God is calling me right now to really focus on building up the ministry that he's given me versus putting a lot of time into my business. And that has been an uncomfortable season for me because I'm in this place where I was really prioritizing being, debt free. And so in typical journeys, they tell you to pick up all of these jobs and, do whatever you can to get this debt down. And so I'm trying to do that. And God is like, no, like, I want you to focus on, building up the ministry and not making, putting in your time for your business, which would be in reality making you more money. And so sometimes God has you do things that aren't necessarily based on logic, and they really do require you to surrender control. And it can be frustrating if we're honest. Sometimes we want to do the thing that makes sense to us, but it contradicts what God told us to do. And usually what God is telling us to do has nothing to do with our logic because his thoughts are above our thoughts and his ways are above our ways. And I even remember coming across the scripture in Proverbs 19:21. And this is in the Message version. It says, we humans keep brainstorming options and plans, but God's purpose prevails. And it made me think about how many times has God given us something to do and, we tried to move forward in that direction and maybe it didn't work out as, we thought it should have. And so we started to come up with all these backup plans, or we started, just plotting behind the scenes on how we can move, making these preparations if God's plan doesn't work out, or trying to rush his plan by putting other things in the way. And then we get frustrated because we wind up waiting even longer. And so when I think about that scripture where he's saying we are always brainstorming options and plans, but God's purpose prevails, what if we didn't have all these backup plans? What if plan A was the only plan and that was God's plan and we just trusted him? What if we stopped fighting with him and stopped making ourselves anxious and frustrated and upset and just surrender control? I really do think about like how much more peace we would have, how much more we would be able to enjoy each day. I think about a lot how when I try to hold on to control of how things work, how frustrated I am and how my days don't go by as smoothly and how I start to lose sight of being grateful for what I have. And then I start to subtly become angry at God because I didn't just trust him. Next thing I know, I'm complaining about things that I prayed for because I have quickly forgotten what God had already done. And it just, like I said, this is more, I'm realizing now it's kind of a me thinking out loud type of episode, but I really just think that God is just stressing to us that and reminding us of who he is, who he has always been and who he will always continue to be. And that's trustworthy. It's someone who is more than worthy of us surrendering control, someone who is far beyond what we could even think of. Like, I don't know. I've just been really pondering on that and just the importance of not fighting with God and really just trusting and taking to heart whatever direction he's leading you in. Even if it doesn't make sense to you, if he's calling you to start a business and you thought you were going to be in another industry or another area and God is calling you this, then trust him and stop fighting him. If he's telling you to shut this down, shut it down and just trust him. If he's telling you to focus on a different area, just trust him. Just trust him. One of the things that God has really been teaching me in this season that I want to share with you guys is learning how to trust him day by day. I feel like one of the reasons that we struggle to control is because we're always trying to think so far ahead. We're trying to trust God for situations that may not be coming for years down the line. And suddenly in that waiting period, we're building up all this frustration and this anxiety and this worry, not even realizing that God told us to trust him day by day. Just trust him enough for today. And each day wake up and make that decision that no matter what happens, you're going to just continue to trust him. And I feel like that puts so much less pressure on our relationship with him when we just allow him to be God in our lives. And it even reminds me of the scripture in Matthew 6, verse 34 that says, "Take no thought for tomorrow will bring its own worries. Today's trouble is enough for today." And it really is so practical and so simple, but literally focus on today. Focus on surrendering control today. Focus on trusting God today. And if you just continue to do this day by day, then it will be so much easier for you to just relax. I feel like we all need to relax and trust God and stop trying to carry the burdens of tomorrow and just trust in what God is doing today. Be grateful for what He's doing today. It's the simple things. I feel like sometimes we overcomplicate what it means to really surrender control to God because we want this 1, 2, 3 step system that breaks it down. But really, it's simple. It's literally keeping your eyes fixed on God day by day, moment by moment, minute by minute, and not forgetting what He's done, who He is, and who He will continue to be. It's as simple as that. And so I just want to encourage anybody who is in that place where they are just struggling to surrender control. Maybe you find yourself super anxious and you're overwhelmed and you're frustrated and you're bitter with God and you feel like you don't know which direction to move in. Just ask yourself, God, how can I trust you today? Ask yourself, what can I be grateful for today? And I think that that will really help you to shift your perspective and you will just walk with so much more peace. But that's just really what I wanted to leave you guys with today. I hope that you take that to heart and you really take this back into your quiet time because I can just feel that need that once you release this, you're going to be able to walk into that peace that you have been desiring. So this wraps up another episode of the Organize My Thoughts podcast. If you found this episode helpful, please share the link with a friend, and I will talk to you guys on the next one.